Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode in our WCW series in TEW 2020. I, of course, am CR Daredevil, and we are on the road to Bash at the Beach, which I realized in game was inaccurate with what it was in real life, technically. It is actually in 13 days. So we have this Nitro, we have next week's Nitro, and then it's Bash at the Beach. So it's not going to be your usual build like we normally have with heading into that pay-per-view. But you know what? To be fair, it kind of makes sense. We already know who our what our world title match is going to be. It's going to be Brian Pillman and Chris Jericho. We already know there's going to be some sort of match between the Horsemen and the NWO. We already know that the U.S. title, Steven Regal is the number one contender, so he'll probably get a title shot at that pay-per-view. Um, we already know that Cactus Jack and the Giant are probably going to end up doing something. So you know we kind of already have a rough idea of what's to happen at Bash at the Beach. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But we dive into the action tonight in front of 15,803 people at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago. Actually, it's in Rosemont, Illinois, but it's a suburb of Chicago. We open up with a 99 rated segment as out from the back comes Chris Jericho, the number one contender for the World's Heavyweight Championship. He's coming out with a big old smile on his face, cocky walk and everything. He gets in the ring and says, in 13 days, he gets a shot at the WCW World's Heavyweight Championship, and he plans to do what no one's expecting him to be able to do, and that is leave Bash at the Beach with the gold around his waist. He's been waiting for this opportunity ever since he stepped foot in a wrestling ring, and it is far too long since he's gotten this opportunity, but he is not going to squander it. He is going to win, and then he will finally prove that the conspiracy theories have been played out here in WCW for too long now, but he's about to shut down those conspiracy theories for good. This brings out our world champion, Brian Pillman. And Pillman says that he doesn't know what the hell Jericho's going on about right now. All he knows is that he is the world's heavyweight champion and that he has another person to defend the championship against. And even though his mind is a lot more focused on the New World Order right now and the ongoing battle between the Horsemen and the New World Order, he says that he can take a sidestep, can take a step out from that realm to whoop Chris Jericho's ass, to teach him just what being crazy truly is, because Jericho may be sitting here being all crazy with his conspiracy theories, but Brian Pillman, he's just crazy, period. And so he has no problem successfully defending the championship against him in 13 days at Bash at the Beach. 99 rating for this segment here. Pillman struggled when going off script, which kind of sucks, but yeah, nice little back and forth there, kind of helping hype up the match in 2 weeks' time at Bash at the Beach for the World's Heavyweight Championship. So we'll have to see how that ends up playing out. Then after that, this is not hyping up a six-man match, but it's just a little promo here. As Al Snow, Mark, and Raven, the Raven's flock, or the flock, if you will, are in this kind of darkened room. And Raven says that everyone's been asking why they stared down Ron Simmons last week on Nitro. It's simple. Simmons, Maivia, Scorpio. They seem to think they're forming some sort of three-man group around here. Some sort of group to watch out for. But Raven sees the truth. Raven knows that they're just scared individuals grouping up together to try to protect themselves from what they fear most here in WCW. And he says that if he has it his way, and maybe if those in charge in WCW are listening, then maybe, just maybe, they'll have to have an eventual showdown with that supposed alliance. 70 rated segment here, as kind of get a little bit of a challenge from Raven for Snow, Mark, and Raven to take on Scorpio, Simmons, and Maivia, but we'll have to see if it ends up happening. Raven invented a new catchphrase. I don't know what that catchphrase was because I didn't come up with a catchphrase during that. If I was smart, I would have done so. But 70 rating, really good promo here as hyping up a potential match between the Flock and whatever Scorpio, Simmons, Maivia's team name would be. Then after that, opening contest here on Nitro sees Lance Storm defeat Jesse James Armstrong in 9:14 by submission with a single leg crab. During the matchup, Meng ran in and attacked Jesse James Armstrong. The referee was not paying attention when the attack happened, and so Storm had the advantage and locked in the single leg crab. The referee turned back around and saw that James was out and called for the bell. 64 rating for the match. 53 from Storm, 58 from Jesse James Armstrong. As clearly the issues with Meng are continuing here. But Lance Armstrong. I just mixed two different names there and came up with a name that everybody's kind of familiar with from the sports world. Lance Storm, that is, gets the victory here. After the match, Jesse James and Meng are brawling with each other, but Scott and Steve Armstrong, the brothers of Jesse James, come running out from the back to make the save to chase off Meng. So the three Armstrongs are able to chase Meng off as Meng is kind of losing his mind about this. Crowd kind of cheers a little bit for it. 55 rating. Lost heat for the storyline, but that's fine. So it looks like Jesse James, Meng may be twice the size of James, but Scott and Steve are there to help back him up. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Then after that, we have a promo from Cactus Jack. He says that the brawling has gone on long enough that if the Giant really wants to reclaim his lost glory, so to speak, if he really wants to be able to get revenge on Cactus Jack for beating him so many months ago at Starrcade, then he wants the match to happen at Bash at the Beach. But it's not going to be just any match. It's not going to be just any fight. He wants it to be a Bash at the Beach street fight. Or really just a Bash at the Beach fight is what he's calling it. This brings out the Giant. Giant just kind of chuckles and says, "You want to have a match where there are no disqualifications and where you have nowhere to run from the goddamn Giant himself? You're on." So it looks like at Bash at the Beach, we will have a Bash at the Beach fight, as it's being called, between Cactus Jack and the Giant. Essentially, it's just a street fight, but it's kind of the idea that it's going to be quote-unquote happening on a beach. 99 rating. Yeah, really good stuff here as it gains heat for the storyline. And so that's another match for the pay-per-view in 13 days. It's going to be Cactus Jack and the Giant in a street fight. So that should be a very interesting affair for sure, because that is going to be chaotic. No doubt about it. Then after that, television championship on the line. Brad Armstrong defends against Terry Richardson 8-12 by pinfall to Russian leg sweep, making defense number 11 of the title. 74 rating for this match. Holy cow. 72 from Brad Armstrong, 47 from Terry Richards. Richards had a decent performance against Raven at the pay-per-view last week. 2 weeks ago. Yeah, last week. And so the WCW committee apparently decided to reward Richards with a shot at the TV title, but unfortunately he could not get the job done as Brad Armstrong continues his fairly dominant reign here as the television champion. However, after the match, Brad Armstrong is celebrating when Lance Storm runs in and attacks him, hitting him with a super kick to the back of his head, and then starts beating him down. Medusa tries to get involved, but Tsukumita, who we've seen associated with Lance Storm recently, whoever gets involved, keeping her from getting involved and all that, as Lance Storm stands tall with the television championship raised in the air. He doesn't actually leave with it. He just raises it up in the air and then drops it back on the laid out body of Brad Armstrong before leaving. 64 rated segment here. I'll see you for the storyline, but that's fine. That is fine. Then after that, okay. Sure, why not? Megumi Kudo, the women's champion, is jumped backstage by Dynamite Kansai, who just attacks her, leaves her laid out in the back. DiBiase comes into view and laughs and says that Kudo may have thought she escaped Kansai the first time, but she will not truly escape the hands of Dynamite Kansai. So 52 rating, as it looks like we may be getting a rematch, or at least we're, if the NWO had it their way, we would be getting a rematch for the WCW Women's World Championship in the near future. Then, about to head decent reaction from the crowd, Subpar Wrestling. Marcus Bagwell gets the victory over Christopher Daniels in 7-10 by pinfall with a Yellow Jacket suplex. 63 rating, 62 from Bagwell, 44 from Daniels. This match was honestly, Daniels had a little bit of offense, but this match was honestly just to get Marcus Bagwell a victory, kind of make him look good. He's been he's been involved in the Horseman versus NWO stuff. He's been involved in some of the Horseman stuff recently, but he hasn't really had too many singles things where he's kind of been doing his own thing. So we got him this victory here. Got him up to a 62 in-ring performance, which is pretty good, but just wanted to keep kind of building him up as a member of the Horsemen without being associated with, the Horsemen and NWO war going on at the moment. After the match, we go backstage where we have an interesting little segment here, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised that it did that bad segment rating-wise. Is that we see Barry Windham and Ric Flair backstage talking. I don't know what the text here is weird, but it's just the two of them talking backstage outside of earshot of the camera, so to speak. So we're not sure what they're talking about, but they seem to be talking about something. So 69 rating here for that segment. Nice rating, but it felt like it should have been higher than that. Then we have a very interesting segment here, setting up a very interesting match. Missy Hyatt is very annoyed right now. She's absolutely annoyed. She says she's kind of arguing with Stevie Ray, who's trying to get her to stop trying to walk away from him. And she says that she has had it with Stevie Ray's constant failures. He hasn't won a match in months. He consistently looks like a loser compared to his opponents. He couldn't get the job done against his brother. He couldn't get the job done against the television champion, Brad Armstrong. He hasn't been able to get the job done in months. And even then, that was really when he was a part of Harlem Heat still. He has just been nothing but a loser here in WCW. And Stevie says, he's trying to beg. He's at this point over him. He's like, well, yeah, but I'm going to be able to turn it around. I can turn it around easily. All I need is just that one opportunity. I can turn it around easily. And Missy Hyatt says, fine, you have that opportunity. I just so happen to have a contract for a match at Bash of the Beach for you. But there's going to be a stipulation to that match. Because I'm tired of you. I'm tired of dealing with you. I'm tired of all of this. So at Bash of the Beach, if you can't win your match, you are gone from WCW. And Stevie, what? Stevie's just in complete shock as Missy Hyatt walks away. So it looks like Stevie Ray is putting his WCW career, or at least Missy Hyatt is putting Stevie Ray's WCW career on the line at Bash at the Beach against a mystery opponent. We're not sure who he's facing, but his career is on the line. So we're going to have to see if he can win and stay here in WCW, or if he ends up out the door. Then after that, we have a really good matchup here that unfortunately did not end in a really good way. But in a superb matchup, Chris Benoit defeated Diamond Dallas Page in 11:49 when Page got disqualified after Steven Regal ran in and attacked Chris Benoit. Of course, Regal and Benoit have been having issues for a little while now. And Steven Regal ran in and attacked Chris Benoit. Of course, that also stems from the NWO versus Horseman feud going on. The referee this time did manage to see what was going on, though, and did call for the disqualification. 76 rated for the match, 86 from Benoit, 74 from Page. Honestly, I'm a little confused. Stamina. Okay. And the lack of associated storyline. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, yeah. So 76 rating here. As Paige tried to put up a hell of a fight with Benoit, but unfortunately the disqualification led to the end of the match and led to Benoit getting the official victory. So Diamond Dallas Page also, been having some struggles recently. We'll have to see where things go with him. As he can't even win this match. I mean, granted, he has a valid excuse. I mean, it was a disqualification, but still, he can't even get the victory in this match. So we'll have to see where things go for Page. But Benoit and Regal's feud continuing on here at this point, and we go from there. As Steven Regal, Chris Benoit is kind of chased off really, and Steven Regal. Well, it's not chased off. It's a commercial break, and it's told that he was told to go to the back by security. Like security showed up to keep him from getting involved in this segment. Steven Regal's in the ring with doing an interview, a promo, if you will, and he says that Chris Benoit and the rest of the Horsemen are a stain on what is the professional wrestling world. But in that case, so is Dean Malenko. He says that he is tired of Dean Malenko parading around as a United States champion, parading around like he's the best wrestler in this company, because everyone knows that Steven Regal is bar none ahead of everyone other than anybody else in the NWO, because they don't care in the NWO who's better wrestler than who else. But compared to the rest of WCW, Steven Regal is head and shoulders above everyone else. And that when he becomes the United States champion at Bash at the Beach, he will be making sure he changes it to the United Kingdom Championship or the European Championship or anything that's no longer associated with this godforsaken country anymore. As the crowd boos really loudly for that. So 98 rating for the segment here. Really good stuff here as it gains heat for the storyline. Steven Regal doing a really good job improvising for this. Then after that, before our main event, we have a promo from our tag team champions, Owen Hart and Steve Austin. Kind of talking about how they are wanting to know who's going to step up. Who's going to step up and challenge them for the titles. They, pay-per-view's coming up in 2 weeks' time, and they need challengers. This is when they get interrupted by the former tag team champions themselves, Sean Waltman and Jerry Lynn. And Waltman and Lynn, well, Waltman's the one speaking, but he says that that they may have lost the titles to Austin and Owen, but they never really they never really got their rematch. They never really got their opportunity to reclaim the championships. And although Eric Bischoff can't make title matches for the NWO per the stipulation, that doesn't mean that it can't happen regardless, because before the stipulation happened, it was put into the contract that when the New World Order lost the tag team, if the New World Order lost the tag team titles ever, that they would get a rematch within the 90-day period. It is still within that 90-day period, and so they are demanding a rematch at Bash at the Beach for the tag team titles. Owen and Austin kind of turn to each other, shrug, and say, "We have no problem defending against you two. We'll kick your asses just like we did before. You're on." So another match for Bash at the Beach, as it's going to be Owen Hart and Steve Austin defending the tag team titles against Sean Waltman and Jerry Lynn, the former champions. So we'll have to see how that plays out. 87 rating for the segment here. Good stuff there. Then the main event gets a 91. Holy cow. Great stuff there. As about that has superb wrestling and great heat, Bret Hart defeated Booker T in 1401 by pinfall with a victory roll. During the matchup, Dustin Rhodes accidentally hit Booker T. So Booker T makes his return after a few weeks and has a hell of a matchup with the former World's Heavyweight Champion. But at the end of the day, Dustin Rhodes came out to try to help out Booker T and accidentally ended up hitting him instead, which caused the victory roll by Bret Hart to get the victory. The idea being that Bret Hart had to use the victory roll in this matchup because Booker T was such a good opponent that he was finding that he had to kind of use measures he wouldn't normally be using against Booker T to try to beat him because Booker just would not stay down. So Bret Hart gets the victory here in a 91 rated match in the main event of Nitro. 96 from Bret Hart, 76 from Booker T. As we gain heat for the inner struggle storyline going on right now. After the match, Booker tries talking to Dustin Rhodes, saying like, "Hey man, like what's going on? You know, this happened. Like I'm not sure what's going on. Like what's happening over." And Dustin just walks away frustrated. He's clearly frustrating himself for costing Booker the victory in this matchup here. As Booker T leaves the ring to follow after him, try to talk to him. This got a 74 here. And the final segment of the show features Bret Hart with a promo just laughing about the fact that WCW can't keep things together. Just like the Horsemen can't seem to keep things together. They can't seem to stay on the same page. They can't seem to get one over, over the New World Order. And that even though he may not be the world champion anymore, the NWO is still completely dominating and on top of WCW, just continuing to wreak havoc here and watches everybody fights with everybody and tears each other apart. This brings out the Nature Boy Ric Flair himself. Flair says that he thinks it's hilarious that Bret Hart feels that way. He thinks it's hilarious that Bret Hart thinks that he is some sort of master manipulator, puppet master, whatever you want to call it, because everybody knows that Bret Hart is second rate and that the only reason why he is even the former world's champion is because of the New World Order. But he says that at the Great American Bash, the battle between the Horsemen and the New World Order didn't really get a finish to it. So he's issuing a new challenge. He says that the rest of the Horsemen are a little busy with something else happening in 13 days' time. But he went out and he found someone else. So he's issuing the challenge to Bret Hart and whatever member of the New World Order is left available, which he counts it down. He's like, I guess at least Paul Levesque, doesn't it? So it's going to be Bret Hart and Paul Levesque versus Ric Flair and special guest horseman for the night, Barry Windham. So the crowd kind of goes crazy at the sound of that, as the match is it's not really a challenge as much as it is just being made official with this, that it is going to be Bret Hart and Paul Levesque taking on Ric Flair and Barry Windham at Bash at the Beach, which is going to be a huge matchup there. 99 rated for this segment to end Nitro. Gained heat for the storyline. Really good stuff here. Show itself gets a 93. Cannot complain at all. 33 regions we gained popularity in. Let's freaking go. So many goddamn blue numbers on this show. Really good stuff there. As we are heading towards Bash at the Beach with a pretty full card now. I mean, tag titles are on the line. The U.S. title's on the line. The world title's on the line. We also now have that big tag team matchup with Bret Hart and Paul Levesque against Ric Flair and Barry Windham. We'll have the street fight with Cactus Jack and the Giant. I mean, there's just a lot of chaos. A lot of chaos happening on this, in this whole thing. Ratings for the week. Once again, with the big victory, WCW Monday Nitro. 93 rated show. 7.6 million viewers at this point. 3.7 million viewers for Raw, which got a 75. It did feature Ahmed Johnson retaining the Intercontinental title over Brian Knobbs in the main event, so they definitely took a step back from last week. In fact, their best segment was an interview with The Undertaker, which got an 84. And then, surprisingly enough, their actual best match of the night was actually Akira Hokuto defeating Tomoko Kazumi to a 78 rating. So, Akira Hokuto just absolutely killing it for WWF right now. But there's that. Another thing that we will bring up here, but I got to put up the splash screen because there is some spoilers happening in the news articles at the moment. Let me pull this up. All right. So I did say that last week we would have the halfway results for the different awards of the year. Unfortunately, I didn't actually take a picture of it or anything like that. But what I did do is I wrote it down on the little in-game notepad. So here are the results halfway through the year. Independent Wrestler of the Year right halfway through is Matt Hardy. He's working on a handshake deal with WWF right now, which is kind of surprising that he was Independent Wrestler of the Year. I think he's also working Omega, maybe? I don't remember for sure. I probably should have wrote that down, but whatever. Female Wrestler of the Year, Akira Hokuto, as we just saw with Raw. She had an 82 in-ring performance. She had a match that was the highest rated match on the card. She's absolutely killing it for WWF right now. Veteran Wrestler of the Half Year is none other than the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair. Absolutely killing it for WCW, just doing great stuff there. Young Wrestler of the Year is Rey Mysterio Jr. Still sucks that we can't get him at this point. He would have been great for our Cruiserweight division or just anything else in WCW at the moment. I mean, he could have been a great, contender for the United States Championship too, but there's that. Show of the half year is WCW Spring Stampede, which of course was the big show we had in April. A lot of great stuff that happened on that card for sure. Match of the half year. I gotta keep saying half year. This isn't actual year-end awards, but it's a half year. Match of the half year was Shawn Michaels defeating Diesel and Undertaker for the WWF Championship on that Raw episode in June. That was the one that just happened this past week. So it's it's the only 100 rated match that's happened so far this year. So it makes sense that right now it's the lead contender for match of the year. WCW is going to keep looking to try to hope to get a 100 rating for the match of the year, but we'll have to see if we can make it happen. Tag team of the half year so far is Blue Panther and Super Astro, which is also known as Team Gold. I believe they were working in CMLL together, so interesting stuff there. Company of the half year so far, WCW. You're welcome. Half year award there. And the Wrestler of the Year right now is Shawn Michaels. Makes sense. He's been having just absolutely killing it match-wise time after time after time. He's had tons of matches at this point, and all of them have been at least in the 90s or so. We have a couple of people in WCW that could have potentially been there, but they either just didn't wrestle as many matches this year because we don't book some of our top stars in as many matches as WWF does, or they had some matches that weren't quite as high of rankings, so that kind of brought down their average rating there. So, but that is where we leave things off in this episode. Thank you all for watching. Definitely appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are ready, willing, and psyched for Bash at the Beach happening in 13 days' time. But next week we will have our go-home episode of Nitro. So we will see you all when that episode is released.